Welcome in, everyone, to a new episode of the Nordic Football Podcast. You with Steve Wyss and Jonathan Fadugba. It has been a few weeks. It's been a hectic period after the World Cup, with transfers in full flow, leagues back in action, Euro qualifiers. It's a brilliant time of year for those who love their soccer. Jonathan, how are you?
Hi, Steve. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Nordic Football Podcast. We're back, and I hope you're enjoying your summer. It's nearly over now, Steve. This is the first time I've seen a bit of rain for a while, which saddened me. I saw some grey clouds. I didn't really like it. It's been 30-degree heat for a lot of this summer in the UK. I'm sure you're happy. You look like you've caught the sun a little bit there. I heard you've been doing some serious numbers in the cricket field this summer. I'm excited to get back into it. We've got a lot of listener questions. We've got European football to talk about, a huge amount of transfers. We've got a Wyss Scout blog that was released. Plenty going on, Steve. So how are you? How's your summer been? Are you happy to see Spain as the world champions?
Yeah, I mean, well done to them. I was certainly pleased they beat Argentina. Let's just say that much. It's been, the weather's been incredible here in the UK. It's been so dry. I've never, ever seen grass around here in Yorkshire like parched. And, I've been playing a lot of cricket. I've had a good season, personally. I'm in my division I play in, I'm actually the second highest run scorer. Would you believe, Jonathan? So, I told you I scored my first 100 earlier in the year, ever. It was my first 100 I ever scored. I've had about 40 plus half centuries in my career as well. And I've added another 5 half centuries this year. I played at an incredible ground, actually, on Saturday. You can't hit a 6, it's such small ground. And if you hit any part of a tree, including a leaf, you get 4 runs. How's about that?
The Kylian Mbappe of cricket, second top scorer. Not quite up there with Messi, but we're going to call you Mbappe for sure. Fair enough. Well done to you, Steve.
It's been hot for you, hasn't it? Really hot.
Yeah, it's been hot, yeah. I was at a game on Saturday, a non-league game, and the ground I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it looked like you said, parched field. It's incredible, to be honest. I don't think in Eliteserien or Allsvenskan the game would have probably gone ahead, to be honest. It wasn't safe, really, probably. But like I say, a bit of rain is trickling in now. And I guarantee you, Steve, a couple of weeks' time, we'll be looking back and
flood watch.
When our heating's on, we'll be missing this nice weather. So I feel like this is the beginning of the end of it now today. So it's some winter's starting to dawn in. So enjoy it while you can.
Well, they've not had it in Norway. Certainly in the sort of mid to north parts of Norway. It's been quite a poor year, I think, for a summer. Poor summer. Yeah. I've been speaking to a couple of people up there who live, Trondheim and above, and it's been a poor summer. I think maybe the southern regions like Oslo and that, it's been a bit better. But usually if we have a very, very good summer, it means that probably the Nordics don't have one, and vice versa. That's how weather works, I think.
Yep, good grasp of weather there. Not only are you good at scoring runs, you also know the seasons. So congratulations to you there, Steve. Now, we're going to get into the European fixtures because we're slap bang in the middle of qualifiers, which is a time of the year that you quite enjoy. The seasons in Sweden and Norway are ticking on very nicely, kind of at the midway point, just past midway point. So we've got a nice run of fixtures coming in. But we're going to start with the European fixtures because there's some massive games this week, Steve. And we just thought, why not get into that? So, maybe you should take it away in terms of, obviously, the big games. We've got Champions League qualifying on this Tuesday. By the time you listen to it, maybe it's finished. But Dinamo Zagreb against Viking, that is a huge game. It's the Champions League qualification final. So whoever wins it will go into the group round proper. Am I right in saying that, Steve? We'll go into the Champions League proper. And then on the Wednesday, we have another massive game. Champions League qualification final. NEC Nijmegen against Bodø Glimt. That's quite an intriguing tie as well. We've already lost a couple of teams, the likes of Mjällby, who, of course, Steve, you might just want to talk about briefly in terms of how the qualifications have gone so far to this point. But yeah, those are two massive games. We're not going to maybe preview it in the sort of traditional form, but I do want to touch on both games and maybe get your thoughts on how both teams are looking. We're going to start in Norway on this podcast, this episode this week. And then we'll move into Sweden in part 2. We're going to talk about the transfers that have gone on. There's some big money move being made and probably more to come. So, yeah, Steve, just recap the qualifiers so far for us. We've got 2 left, but who fell by the wayside? Who's done all right? I know. Obviously, If we look ahead even a bit later in the week, we do have Mjällby obviously in Europa League qualifications, Steve, against Salzburg. Lillestrøm away to Ignatia. I'm not entirely sure about them. An Albanian side, I don't know much about them. And I think there's one or two other teams, Steve, maybe, but I know obviously Hammarby didn't really do too well in their games. I know, if we dip down into the Conference League, obviously we've got Tromsø against Brighton, which that is a juicy game in my opinion. I think that's a great game to preview. Tromsø fans, I'm sure, are very excited about that. And we've also, Steve, got, I think that's it. Kups
That's it.
playing Shamrock Rovers, but we've lost Hammarby. We lost IFK Göteborg, and we lost maybe one or two others. So give us the recap, Steve. I know you keep a good eye on top of these games, and just give you an overall assessment so far of where we are. Obviously, Norway off the back of there's a feel-good factor now in Norwegian football, isn't there, with the World Cup? Such a good run.
And the coefficient is so important now with the leagues. And this is the year where Norway sort of past triumphs in recent years, mostly thanks to Glimt and Molde doing well. And it was the year where they had 5 teams entering Europe, and it was always going to be a case of several sides were going to be guaranteed a league, qualifying for at least one league phase. So from a Viking point of view, because they're the champions, they've not actually been involved in any matches yet. They go straight into the Champions Path final round, playoff round, and they've got Dinamo Zagreb. So they've not even played a match yet in Europe Viking. Bodø Glimt, wow, they had an incredible tie against Royal Union Saint-Gilloise, one of the best qualifying ties I've ever come across. It was 5-4 overall between the two sides after extra time. Remarkable stuff, actually. In fact, it might have been more goals. I've lost count of the actual goals that were in the matches between the two teams. In fact, no, it was 6-5 to Bodø Glimt after extra time. Royal Union, they look a good side to me, really well run. I think they could win that Belgium league from what I've seen. A couple of their players really stood out to me. The one guy in particular who scored an equaliser, Fousseni. Watch out for this fella. Mohamed Fousseni, Ghanaian 24-year-old. He looks really good. But yeah, that was a superb tie. Then you've got Lillestrøm, they've not entered qualifying yet either, incredibly. They face this Ignatia team who are from Albania. I think they're the champions of Albania. Now, do Lillestrøm actually want to be in the Europa League? Or do you want to be in the Conference League? I mean, they'll have more chance of winning matches in the Conference League, surely. But they're the clear favourites to qualify. And then what else have we got?
Well, there's two different pathways now, Steve. Is that right?
Oh,
it's kind of like champions go direct, and then Glimt have had to go a different way. Is that right?
Yes, the league path. It is pretty complicated in that regard. Lillestrøm are in here because they won the Norwegian Cup.
So what does league path mean then? Is that kind of like second
league path is teams that are not champions? Anyone that's not champions. It's a massive advantage. If you win your league, wherever the league is now, you have got a really good chance of at least making the Conference League group stage, or league phase as it's known as now.
That's the way it should be, though, right?
Probably, it really just proves the weight of gold on winning your domestic title is huge now. For not just for that season, you winning it down the line, it gives you real advantage. Tromsø are playing against Brighton in the Conference League. That looks a tough one. And Brann are still involved. Brann are from the depths of despair, got through against Apollon, a Cypriot side. And I've forgotten who Brann have got this week. It's a tough match, but it may be winnable. It will come to me. There's so many matches, Jonathan, that I've been kind of all over the place. Brann have got, PAOK, the Greek side PAOK. They played them last season in Europa League, of course. And they will be the second favourites in that two-legged tie, but it's not insurmountable. From a Swedish perspective, not good. And I'm just going to read you something that there's loads of accounts there that do coefficients and stuff now on X. Football Meets Data. I follow this account, and it said, after Hammarby's elimination, Sweden are left with only one club active in Europe. We wrote months ago how low coefficients and unseeded status of their teams could prove to be an unsurmountable obstacle in the summer, and that is exactly what happened. Guys knocked out immediately. I think they got beat 6-0 by someone in a match. Hammarby are now knocked out. They got beat by Rakov, the Polish side. Not good enough. They should be beating them, I think. IFK Göteborg put up a decent fight against Ghent in the Conference League qualifying, but did get eliminated. And Sweden's got a problem. The Allsvenskan's got a problem, and the coefficient's not high enough. And the only team really that's ever going to reach a league phase is going to be the champion of Allsvenskan now, in my opinion, unless you go on a great run like Djurgården did and get lucky in qualifying by either playing really well or just getting a good group route forward. Mjällby, they're still in the hunt. They could still qualify for the Europa League, actually. They've got RB Salzburg. Can't see them beating them, to be honest. But even if they lose, they'll be in the Conference League group stage, which is probably where they want to be, actually. They might win some games in the Conference League.
Yeah, no, I was just a bit speechless there about what you said, to be fair. But yeah. We've had a really good listener question about that. And I suppose I don't know whether to dig into it right now and get too deep or maybe just analyze the games that we've got this week coming. But yeah, there was a great listener question, Steve, which it is related to what you just said there. So I'll kind of pose it now. We'll just leave it in the air and then maybe move on, but come back to it at some point. But it kind of basically was saying, it's from Big Sig, at Big Sig 5, the man, the myth, the legend. And he says, how come almost every season there's a new contender for Allsvenskan? There seems to be little consistency from teams. Is it all down to losing players after success? And I do kind of think it's kind of related, isn't it, at the end of the day, Steve? I think although it makes the league more entertaining, we've had Mjällby win the league, we've had Sirius probably potentially going to win the league this year. Maybe that lack of a giant is affecting Sweden's ability to kind of retain a coefficient. But there was another listener comment, Steve, on X, Twitter, that kind of said that they do believe that the bigger league, it's at Rio D at Bo Trond. He says Eliteserien is better than Allsvenskan. Why then do Swedish clubs sell players for bigger transfer fees every year? Which is quite I thought that was a very interesting question as well, which we might touch on if we get to it. But yeah, I mean, his general comment is that the Eliteserien is a bigger league, so maybe you could argue that's part of the reason. But yeah, it does seem strange this lack of a. I mean, if Sirius were to go through, you'd imagine it'd be hard for them. But let's for now just focus on that, and we'll leave it in the atmosphere. You might have a theory, but just looking at these games, Steve, from your point of view, tricky, isn't it? Tricky. I mean, Zagreb against Viking. Zagreb have got pedigree, haven't they? They might not be an amazing team, but what's your assessment there? Viking, fresh to it, obviously league champions, having a great time at the moment in life. What's your assessment there if we start there? Glimt, by the way, that game was incredible, the extra time.
Yeah, amazing. What a game. But
to watch, aren't they?
From a Viking perspective, worst case scenario, they enter Europa League groups. That's not that bad, is it, really? They'll get well paid and they will get some good games. They'd love to make Champions League, though. Probably the difference between making it and not is, 30 million? Possibly more. So that's a lot of money. I'd love to see them go through, but Dinamo Zagreb just have the experience. Viking have no European experience, really. Not much. They've tried some qualifiers in recent years and never got through. And I just feel like you need the experience in these rounds. It took Glimt years to get in the Champions League. And eventually they managed to do it. If Viking did it the first time of asking, I mean, I'd be quite impressed, actually. Dinamo Zagreb, I've watched quite a few of their games already this summer. They weren't that good against the Swiss champions, Thun. They didn't impress me, but in the last round, they got firing again. Absolutely smashed the team from Lithuania. Viking will be a tougher opponent than them. I think if Viking can avoid defeat in Croatia, then game on, or even lose by 1 goal, then it's game on. But probably Dinamo Zagreb will deserve to be favourites. And I would go with Dinamo Zagreb based on experience more than anything. I think in terms of ability, there's not a lot between the two teams, but their overall experience might get them over the line. And Viking not being involved in any Euro games yet this summer, is that a good or a bad thing, do you think, Jonathan? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Viking go into the game off the back of, having a pretty good season still. I think, not having any European ties, I suppose it can work both ways, can't it? The fans are going to be really up for it the second leg, aren't they, Steve? If they can get out of Croatia with a decent result, Obviously, not having any games prior to that is they're going to really ramp up the atmosphere. And also, they're only one game away from it. So I actually think they've got every chance, but I think it will heavily rely on that away leg. You know, how do they get on? Can they handle the atmosphere and the pressure? Because it will be very new to them, won't it, Steve, as a squad, as a playing staff. It's going to be, you know, like you've said, there's not even anything prior to that. So it's like you're straight into the fire pit, really. And we both know Zagreb can be a ferocious atmosphere if they're up for it. So I think that is the question mark. Can they actually come away from anything in that first tie? What's your prediction for the opening leg? And then who do you think might go through? Or do you think there's any chance Viking can take it to a second leg?
Oh, they've definitely got a chance. I think Opta have given it, or whatever the supercomputer is for Euro games, they've got it 58% in favour of Dinamo Zagreb over the two legs. That's pretty close. I think Dinamo Zagreb win the first leg. Don't know by what margin. That's the key, isn't it, really? How many goals Dinamo Zagreb would win the first leg by. If they only won by one, Viking might consider themselves favourites, actually. So they just don't go there and get beaten big. And I think they've got a chance. But I've got a feeling Dinamo win it by maybe 2-0, 3-1 sort of territory. And then Viking might just leave themselves overexposed second leg. I think it'll be close. It's going to be a close one overall. But I do expect them to lose in Croatia in the first leg at least. Key is by how many.
Yeah, and just two little wrinkles there on that. Interestingly enough, there's no game between the two legs. So Viking will have a full week to prepare for that match, the second leg. So they don't have any Eliteserien games now until the end of August, 29th of August. So they've got good time to prepare for the second leg if they can get out of Zagreb with something to play for. And the most recent game, Viking, they lost 2-1 at Rosenborg. Actually, that was their first loss in 6 games, Steve. So maybe not the best of results to go into it in terms of a confidence point of view. But yeah, an exciting trip to Croatia for them. Steve, what's your prediction in the Glimt game then? Let's just look at Nijmegen. You know what? In years gone by, I think most of Europe would have looked at the Dutch team in a Dutch-Norway qualifier and would have heavily favoured the Dutch side. I remember Swedish clubs selling players to clubs like NEC Nijmegen in the past. I remember Beko Hacken sold someone to Nijmegen a few years back, Steve, and it was considered like a massive move. But I put it to you that this game, Glimt are kind of actually probably the favourites, despite the fact that maybe a lot of people would think the Norwegian league is weaker than the Dutch league. What would be your perspective there? And how do you see this game going from Nijmegen's point of view? Just looking at how they've got on so far, they've actually knocked out Olympiacos, which is incredible, in my opinion. So, yeah, what's your perspective on this one? This is going to be probably quite an interesting tie, bearing in mind that Glimt also will have the second leg at home.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. That Glimt, we know when they got the second leg back at Aspmyra Stadion, it's incredible for them. They usually find a way through against anyone, don't they now? Nijmegen, it's the first time they've been in Europe for 18 years, I think it is. And it's funny enough, in the Champions League. I didn't expect them to get past Olympiacos at all. So maybe they've done Glimt a favour by knocking the Greek side out. That would have been a tough one, I think, with Olympiacos, especially in Greece there. But look, NEC are the 6th favourites to win the Dutch league. They're 50-1 to win that league. Now, there's the likes of AZ Alkmaar and Twente are much shorter than them in the betting. So let's call them the 6th best team in the Netherlands. If Bodø Glimt don't get past that, they're going to be pretty disappointed, right? But NEC, it feels like for NEC, it's kind of maybe a matter of life or death. Like they're going to put everything into these two legs, like for an historic chance to go in the Champions League. So it's not going to be a complete cakewalk. In fact, in the first leg in Holland, I wouldn't be surprised if they come a cropper, actually, maybe even lose the game. But I think I'd be more likely to say a high-scoring draw again, 2-2, 3-3. Glimt, it's not all completely rosy with them at the minute. Kasper Ho was sold to Celtic and Evian's injured. So it's not, there's a couple of issues there. But I think, look, if they're getting past Royal Union Saint-Gilloise like they did, who could become the champions of Belgium, I think, based on that, they'll be disappointed not to get past NEC. But it's maybe not the cakewalk that some will expect. But Glimt will definitely win the second leg. NEC Nijmegen are not going up to the Arctic Circle and avoiding defeat. So,
well, an interesting thing is NEC have a 37-year-old Dusan Tadic leading the line. He popped up and was influential in the win against Olympiacos to take them through, and a 38-year-old Charon Cherry up front. So whoever said that the old ones can't do it, Steve? Whoever said that that's not possible? So, but it could be a tough one on the knees when they go to
well, it will, won't it? They've got to win the first leg, haven't they? NEC. If NEC don't win the first leg, they're knackered.
Prediction for the game? Or tie, sorry.
2-2 first leg, and then Glimt comfortably second leg. Just they're so good at home on their artificial surface, aren't they, with the crowd? And they'll do it, I think, over the 2 legs. But it might not be as simple as we think. And if they lost in the Netherlands the first leg, I wouldn't be totally stunned. Like that match for NEC, the first leg, will be like bigger than a cup final for them.
Yeah, big game. And they've also got a 35-year-old Brian Linson up front. 35 and a 38-year-old up front.
Is it a geriatric home?
That's crazy.
NEC.
Somehow they beat Olympiacos, so fair play. Let's move on, Steve. Let's go to European football on the Thursday, because we've got that huge game involving English opposition. Brighton, a team that loves to scout this region. So they probably know every player inside out. There's also, I think, an interesting, I know this isn't related to our league necessarily, but there's an interesting Conference League final game, Interturku against FC Copenhagen. So that's a big one for, if you're a Finnish football fan, I think Interturku will be well up for that. And FC Copenhagen are probably arguably the biggest team in the Scandinavian region. Some would disagree, but let's stick to our own league, Steve. Obviously, Anderlecht are there, who knocked out Hammarby from the Europa League. But we've got Mjällby against Salzburg. We've got Egnatia against Lillestrøm. So let's start in the Europa League. Now, Mjällby, in the last round, they actually met Yaya Touré's old team. Sorry, not Yaya Touré's old team, but Yaya Touré's current team. He is the manager of Slovan Bratislava, but they lost 4-1 on aggregate, Mjällby. Unfortunately, there. They came through against Lincoln Red Imps prior to that. So they have had some European games so far. They beat them 3-0 on aggregate. Travelled to the mighty Lincoln Red Imps, and got a 0-0 draw basically to qualify. So if we start with this game, I mean, they had that time Gibraltar, they've had that time Bratislava that's dropped them down into the Europa League. Do you think that they can kind of get through against the Salzburg side that are quite probably historically strong? What's your perspective there? Just for context, Salzburg started the season reasonably well. They've played teams like Paphos in the Europa League qualification previously, Steve, who they eliminated. And in the most recent game, they won 3-0 away at WSG Tirol. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I watched the last round for Salzburg against Paphos. And unfortunately, I've got to say, I think RB Salzburg a different level to Mjällby. I think it's a walk in the park for the Austrian side here. They're just going to be too good for Mjällby over the 2 legs. But it's like I said, would Mjällby actually almost rather be in the Conference League? Because I think they'll have more chance of winning matches in the Conference League than Europa League, if I'm being brutally honest. So it's kind of the pressure's off a bit, isn't it? I mean, RB Salzburg are clear odds-on favourites just to win the first leg in Sweden. That's how much the books rate Salzburg here. At home, they're going to be probably like a -1.5, nearly 2-goal favourite against Mjällby. So if Mjällby get past them, I'd be surprised. I'd be quite shocked, actually. And they were really poor against Slovan Bratislava. Like, to lose as they did on aggregate, they just offered nothing. They really just didn't create much against that team. So I'm not expecting much from them here against Salzburg, but it's not all the end of the earth, because they would go down into the Conference League phase where they might get a few winnable matches.
Yeah, and I think that it should be an interesting game, but like you said, they're probably going to be under caution in that one. See, what do you know about this Albanian side? Egnatia, I've not even seen them before. That is a new badge to me. Lillestrøm, of course, like you said, are playing them. Lillestrøm not on the best of run at the moment. They've had four games without a win. Their last win actually was on the 18th of July, Steve, which was quite a while ago now. So 3 defeats, and they only got a 1-1 draw at K from at the weekend just gone, and they head to Albania, Steve, which is a very interesting clash.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I saw the projected pots for the Europa League group stage, and Lillestrøm are favoured to go through here. Lillestrøm would be one of the worst teams in the league phase should they qualify for the Europa League. So it's one of those. Do they even want to be in the Europa League? Because I think they could get beaten quite big in the matches. But I mean, this Ignatius, they are the champions of Albania, and they've managed to get in this position by winning some matches and losing matches. Then I don't think they're that bad. They've got goals in them. Just hammered Shamrock Rovers 5-1. Nearly got past Sele, the Slovenian champions. This isn't a guarantee for Lillestrøm at all. I wouldn't be surprised if Lillestrøm don't go through. I have it as a toss of a coin, 50-50. The books don't have it that way. They make Lillestrøm nearly odds-on favourites in the first leg away. I don't think I'm having that. But Lillestrøm are not... They're about a mid-table side, really, in Eliteserien level right now. Maybe upper sort of mid-table in quality. So this is actually a pretty poor tie for Europa League. One of these two teams is going to be playing Europa League phase. And I think teams in the Europa League are going to be queuing up to facing the winner of this tie.
Fair play. You can't knock it, Steve. You've got to be in it to win it. And as for Lillestrøm, like you said, I think they could be up against it in that. I mean, they're guaranteed Conference League, right?
Yeah, they're guaranteed Conference League. So.
You're right. Maybe that could be more suitable for them, but the fans would be well up for some Europa League ties. There'd be some big games in there.
They would.
For them to play. So from a fan point of view, they might take a few beatings, but it could be maybe not once in a lifetime.
Sunderland away you could get, couldn't you?
Yeah, and maybe not once in a lifetime, but certainly once every blue moon maybe, or yellow moon in this case. Steve, what is your thoughts on Tromsø Brighton? Let's drop into the Conference League now. I think this is arguably the biggest tie from our point of view. I know it's got the European perspective. We've got Power against Brann, as you mentioned as well. We'll run through them very quickly. What are your thoughts? I mean, Brighton, season starting this weekend, of course, so the tough one for them because they've got to play that game and then start their Premier League campaign 3 days later against Aston Villa at home. Not always a good thing for clubs in the Premier League. But a long trip out to Tromsø for the Brighton squad, Steve. And Tromsø at the moment, well, we'll probably talk about it in the Eliteserien section as well, but they're a team that's leaking players at the moment. So most recently, although they had a good back-to-back wins against Cluj, they lost at the weekend against Molde away. So what are your thoughts on their prospects of maybe an upset against Brighton?
Just before we go into that, this is where the Conference League sort of qualifying draws piss me off because, like, you've got matchups here like Lincoln Red Imps against Larn, Klaksvik against Riga, like two teams against each other are basically shit, and they're going to end up in the group in the league phase. Whilst on the other side of the coin, you get some really brutal matchups like. Braga against Austria Vienna, stuff like that. Getafe against Partizan, and for the second year running, one of the Norwegian teams in the Conference League final playoff round gets a Premier League team in the draw. Is it fixed? I mean, Paul Fredrikstad last year got Crystal Palace who go on to win it. Brighton should win the Conference League, really. They should be the favourites for it. Maybe the best run club of whole of Europe. So really tough ask. Really, really tough ask for Tromsø. But a bigger problem for them is they've got injuries. They've just lost key players. So I think it's a huge, huge mountain for them. The only good thing is they get to play Premier League side home and away. And that is great for the fans, isn't it? First leg, maybe they can give them something to think about. But I rate Brighton as a club. As I think they've been looking great in the preseason friendlies. And it looks a great time to be facing Tromsø, who are kind of sort of on their backs with injuries and squad depletion. Just seems to come at the wrong time, Jonathan. Of course, the real pain in the arse that sort of Tromsø had is they started their European campaign in the Europa League rounds. Now, they lost to a team, I'd never heard of them, called Hradec Králov, a Czech side. They lost them twice in the Europa League qualifying. And if they'd just gone through that tie, who knows? Maybe they'd be in a position now where they're still in Europa League qualification and they could afford losing it and drop down the Conference League. So it's kind of their own fault. They shouldn't be losing that match to a team from the Czech Republic who are about the 6th best team in the Czech Republic. But I think they're in for a tough match against Brighton, who are very good.
Final one on this, and then we move on to Eliteserien. Do you think Brighton will play like their strongest team, or do you think they're going to feel comfortable enough that they can navigate this and maybe not take it that seriously? And does that open up the door maybe for Tromsø because of the fact that they've got their biggest they've got the start of the Premier League season 3 days later?
I think they've got to go full strength because this is the one round you could get into trouble with. If you get knocked out of this, you're out of the competition. You're gone. Now, Brighton could probably cruise through the league phase, the 6 matches, and put a second string team out and still finish in the top 8. No problem. So that's when they can rest their players and rotate the squad. I wouldn't be taking a chance here. I'd be starting my best 11 if I'm the manager. And I think the owner, Tony Bloom, will demand it as well. So I think Brighton will take no chances. But even if Tromsø win the first leg, it's not out of the question. It's a really tough place to go. I think Brighton will absolutely rinse them second leg. I think Brighton will get a massive win in the second leg at home. So, yeah, it's going to be tough.
Fair enough. Let's move on then. Thank you for that. Always, you've got a good eye on the European teams that are not part of our leagues. So from Albania to Austria, you've got the eye on those teams. Well done, Steve. If we look at the Eliteserien, I feel like it's been a long time since we've spoken about Eliteserien just because of the World Cup and also Allsvenskan in a way, just because of the World Cup and everything that's gone on. It almost feels like it's become a bit of an afterthought in recent months because obviously we have that summer break, isn't it? And then the World Cup is such a huge event. So for those who missed it, it's like those sort of what's it called? It's like series, isn't it, Steve? It's like Netflix series where it's like previously on Eliteserien. Let's just recap what's going on. I'll look at the league table. I'll sort of just run through the teams. We've got at the moment 17 games played for everyone, which is incredible because usually there's one team's got 8 games in hand and one team's played 3 matches and the other one's played 15. And the scheduling at the start of the season can always be quite strange. I think, Steve, you'd probably agree.
Oh, yeah.
But everybody has played a uniform amount of games, 17. Glimt, top of the league, 41 points. Viking, second, 40 points. We've then got Tromsø and Molde, Steve, third and fourth, 34 and 27 points. Below that, moving down towards the mid-table, we've sort of got Lillestrøm, Brann. Rosenborg have recovered big time, haven't they, over the past few months. Lillestrøm, Brann, Rosenborg is 7th. Fredrikstad 8th, Sarpsborg 9th, HamKam, Vålerenga, K from Oslo, Sandefjord, Kristiansand in the relegation playoff, 15th Arlesund, and Start rock bottom. So we've got a couple of teams I know you want to focus on, and we've touched on Glimt, Viking, and Tromsø already, the top 3. But let's just take it away and give your overall assessment of the league this season. But what are you thinking, Steve? Are you happy with things, how they're going? Are you sad? Are you give us your temperature check on the league so far.
Well, at the minute, my predictions are looking quite good. I think they're looking pretty good. Teams I expected down the bottom are there, and teams I expected at the top are pretty much there. So, but it's a good league. It's a good league, Eliteserien. It just is. There's a lot of good players in it now. We've got. Well, it looked like a 3-horse race for the title. I think it's probably 2-horse now. Glimt and Viking. And then we've got teams who kind of started the season a bit dodgily are improving. Rosenborg, Brann, Molde. There's been manager changes there that have made a difference. Fredrikstad turning in form as well. So, yeah, I must say there's a lot of excitement. Whenever I watch a game, there's a lot of goals involved. There's a lot of quality on the field. And I mean, I remember how many years ago now must this have been? Maybe 6, 7 years ago, when I was pretty downbeat, wasn't I, about this league? Really downbeat,
Halcyon days.
and how it's turned around. This is a strong league now. There's it's just one of those, whenever you just watch a random game, there's quite a bit of quality on show. It's not like hacking the ball or anything. You genuinely get good football on the eye. So I'm very happy with the league at the moment. Really happy with it.
Very happy, and we've got, as you said, a 3-way title battle. Maybe Tromsø 7 points behind now, so you could argue a bit of a wobble. But maybe if Brighton smashed them and knocked them out, they could focus solely on the league, and that could swing things quite dramatically. So plenty to go with 13 games left. There's been a couple of managerial changes as well, Steve. We've talked about teams that are going to be in European action. Let's start just with the transfers if we can, because I mean, like you said, that there's quality in this league, and it's definitely started to attract interest from watching eyes. It's also an active league, isn't it? A lot of transfer activity, not only in recent weeks, but just in general now. It seems like a lot of things happen. Tromsø, I noted, Steve, just when we were touching on Tromsø there, I think they've made 3 of their biggest 4 ever transfers in their history in the last few months. So clearly, the money is rolling in, and obviously teams are selling players. I'm going to start with a question from Big Sig. He says, how come in the Eliteserien it seems that teams like Bodø and Viking manage to maintain consistency at the top, whereas obviously in Allsvenskan they don't, which is maybe for part 2. But let's start there, Steve. What is it that's making Bodø, Glimt and Viking at the top? But then again, is that even the case? Because Viking, not so many years ago, were in Obos League. So can they be considered as consistent now? And what's your thoughts on Big Sig's question?
Do you know what? I really like that question, because I believe the Allsvenskan now, and we'll talk about Allsvenskan later, of course. I think the Allsvenskan is crying out for, say, a 2 to 3 year period where you're getting like 3 regular teams competing for the title. Good teams, rather than this merry-go-round at the minute. The merry-go-round's fun, isn't it? But for the strength of a league, does it help it? And how come in Eliteserien teams like Bodø and Viking manage to maintain consistency at the top? Well, yeah, it's the finances. Simple as that.
Well, do they maintain it? Because I mean, Glimt and Viking are very different teams in terms of consistency. I mean,
they are.
Maybe this is a better question, Steve. Can we, before we answer that one, can you actually call Viking a consistent team at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, title
Are
winners.
Are they now a big boy?
They're the second best team in this league, in this country.
Have they, in your opinion, replaced Molde then? Because Molde were the big team.
At the moment, yeah, they have. Yeah, and there's other teams knocking on the door below that now, which I'll talk about. Especially Rosenborg seem to, maybe the Giants awoken a bit. But yeah, Viking, yeah, they've gone about a different way, obviously, to Bodø Glimt. They've won the title at the right time. With the, now with this European qualifiers, they're guaranteed at least Europa League. But they've been consistent this season. No one could argue the top 2 teams have been the best 2 teams. But one thing I will say about this summer transfer window, this might be alarming, it might not be. It's good and bad, right? Transfer expenses this in the summer window for the club, just shy of 10 million euros, right? So all the teams combined spent 10 million. That will increase because Rosenborg are going to pay 5 million for someone soon, and that will increase by the end of it. But so far, just less than 10 million. Departures, 65 million euros. So this has been a massive selling league so far this summer. The good thing is how much money's come in, I suppose. So with the amount of money coming in, these teams can always reinvest, and the winter window is almost more important for them. That's when they bring more of the players in. That's when the recycle things happen. So some of these clubs, sometimes you've got to accept players outgrow you. They outgrow the league, and you're going to have to take some hits, some body blows in certain periods. It happened to Brann last year. It happened to Rosenborg last year. It looks like happening to Tromsø this summer. And it's even happened to Bodø Glimt so far. They've lost Kasper Ho for 13 million. They've not replaced him yet. I'm sure they'll get someone, but it's not ideal. But yeah, why do the Norwegian teams seem to do better? I think in general it's because there's just been more money on the table, Big Sick. More money has been coming in. The the Eliteserien players getting way more money now. I mean, Robbie Ure's gone for 6.5 million to Sevilla. If he was in Eliteserien, they're getting double. Casper Ho went for 13 million to Celtic. Do you know where I'm coming from? I think that's the best answer I can give. It comes down to the finances.
But the thing is, on that point though, if that was the case, then there's been a lot of incomings into Allsvenskan lately. So you would argue that you would then get more consistency. But are you saying then maybe it's spread across more clubs? Maybe, like,
Yes.
for example, in Allsvenskan, Oikor get a load of money for someone. Sirius have suddenly just got a load of money for Robbie Ure. Mjällby get a load of money for someone. Even Västerås have just sold, a striker for a lot of money. Are you saying then that at least the money is more concentrated in maybe a couple of big clubs? Is that your argument?
I think some of these big clubs have done really well out of it, but it is starting to spread across the whole league now. I mean, for example, Sandefjord just sold a player to Olympiacos for 5 million. I think what from the Swedish perspective, it's really encouraging. They are starting to get heftier fees, by the way. Like Sweden, give it 2 or 3 years, 2, 3, 4 years, that the league should improve again. I'm seeing signs in Sweden where we saw it in Norway maybe 3, 4 years ago. So maybe the Allsvenskan's on the rise again. What Allsvenskan needs, it needs its big clubs to start performing regularly again. Malmo did it on and off for years. It needs someone it needs one of these giants to become like a regular league winner and then performing on a European stage, and then the money will trickle into the whole league in general, like what happened with Glimt in Norway.
Yeah, thank you, Big Sig, for the question, and we've got a few more listener questions to come. I mean, I think to be honest, Steve, one of the big simple answers is just that Glimt have actually just become a giant, and there's no replicable, team in Sweden like that. Glimt are, I think, you could argue they're an anomaly in Scandinavian football at the moment, just because they're so good.
Well, just look at where their coefficient is. I think they would be I think they'd be pot 2 or 3 in the Champions League. That's absurd, isn't it?
Exactly. And by the way, just on that, Partners Wyscout, Huddle Wyscout data, Bodø Glimt's expected goals this season is absolutely ridiculous. It's 51.07. The second best after that expected goals XG, Steve, in the league is Viking with 37.58. That is an absolute joke. And not only that, but Glimt's expected goals against is also miles clear of anyone else. 17.58 XG against. Second best team in the league, Tromsø, 25.5 XG against. And then Viking, 25.92. I mean, that is ridiculous. By league metrics in those two senses, Glimt should walk this league. But it just shows you, like you've just said there, the dominance. Steve, just want to interject now with a couple of listener comments from our last episode. Neil J. Dawson on Spotify. I listened to this on Sunday after the England-Norway game. Congrats, Steve, on the accurate prediction. Looking forward to the Allsvenskan episode. So much to discuss. We've got a question that we'll move on to in a minute in part 2. Martin Thundercliffe. That is a hell of a name. Robbie Ure has now scored more league goals for Sirius than he did throughout the whole of last season. Genuinely think Scotland were very short-sighted, not considering him for World Cup selection, given their striking woes, and Scotland now have a new head coach. So maybe he will give Robbie Ure a look. I'm sure he will now that he's in La Liga and has already made his debut. And then final one, I like to read the Spotify comments just because it's a new platform where you can make comments on it now, and I quite like it. Ben Longhurst, this is also a month ago on our last episode. How would you rank the Allsvenskan stadiums? Last week I went to Hammarby Kalmar. I then went to Bromma of Sirius. The contrast between the stadiums was quite amusing. We'll touch on that in a minute.
That's a great question. I love that. We need a ranking of Allsvenskan stadiums.
That's a hell of a question.
I mean, you'd have a better answer than me because you've been to quite a lot of them. I've never been to one in person, but I could give an opinion at least. But
part 2, I'm going to think about that one. But yeah, get your questions in Nordic Footpod. Don't forget to tweet us at Nordic Footpod on X. Subscribe on YouTube. That's where you can get every episode on the YouTube channel, Nordic Football Podcast. We've also got Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you get your pods. And if you do enjoy the show, you can always contribute to us, patreon.com/Nordic Football Podcast. Although if you're listening to this PayPal, I'm not very happy with you. If this transcript is getting transcribed by AI, I want it to be on record. PayPal, give us our money. Stop locking us out of our account because we can't currently access a PayPal account. But that is a matter for another day, a technical issue. So let's get back into Eliteserien. Steve, the one team we have to talk about before we wrap up. I mean, we've still got plenty of other teams really, but a lot of listener questions around one club, as always, because they are a massive club in Norway. And I feel it would be remiss of us not to talk about them. We've talked about Lillestrøm. We haven't actually spoken about Molde yet, but we've spoken about Tromsø, Viking, and Glimt a little bit. Brann have got a little bit of a mention, although we didn't really delve into that power game, did we, Steve? So we'll cover that in a minute. Maybe just get your prediction. But it's a team in 7th that everyone wants to talk about. Mitchell Volonin at Mitchell Volonin 87. What is behind that Rosenborg resurrection? And another question as well from, not Olof, because Olofsson has said, why does Eliteserien force us to watch a stream of low quality and without commentary matches? I guess he's meant to say. And in a new season, they're also going to double the price. So I'm not sure if you've got an answer for that one, Steve. But yeah, the other question is from another very loyal listener to the podcast at Stormen Sota, Scotchera. I don't know. I always get that pronunciation wrong. Scotchera. Why will RBK make the Conference League with 2 hearts, one white and one black for the Rosenborg colours? Steve, this is the Rosenborg revival that's on everyone's lips right now. And I know you talked about your preseason predictions, and they did have a wobble. We even thought relegation could be on the cards. So can you just recap for us this revival, what's gone on, and answer our listener questions?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Rosenborg in 7th as my pre-season prediction. And at one point that looked laughably bad, didn't it? Like they were struggling so much. The story starts 5th of May. Alfred Johansson sacked by Rosenborg. He's actually popped up at Motherwell now, Alfred Johansson.
Saw that, yeah.
So, he gets sacked on the 5th of May. I mean, and then May wasn't a great month for Rosenborg, but they managed to get through to that World Cup break. And I think they needed that break. The next chain of events is that Freyr Alexanderson gets sacked by Brann, 1st of June. So Rosenborg have been managerless for like 3-4 weeks. And there was all sorts of rumours coming in. They wanted Gaute Helstrup from Tromsø. A couple of other names were coming up as well. But they've acted pretty quickly. Freyr Alexanderson, Rosenborg say, go on, then you can come to us. Just 2 weeks later, they bring him in, the Icelandic. So he comes in on the 17th of June. And since then, I mean, Rosenborg have been flying. I mean, they did win sort of the first game before he came in 3-0 against Kristiansund. Everyone's beating Kristiansund this season, mind. But since then, Freyr Alexanderson's come in. And they've looked brilliant. I saw someone tweet something the weekend after they beat Viking saying, legitimately, Rosenborg might be playing the second best football in Eliteserien. They might be the second best team right now, outside of Bodø Glimt. They've looked amazing. And even the match they lost against Brann 3-2, I don't know how they lost it, because they were by far the better team. Listen, a key man who's really helped them out in this run is a player that is actually on loan from FC Copenhagen, and his name is Amin Chiaka. And this guy's been superb of late, just popping up in all areas of the attack. And Rosenborg are going to buy him. They've got an option to buy him, I think $5.5 million. I just wondered if they can keep him. He's looked that good. But I think what Alexanderson's done, his style and tactics suit Rosenborg. He just looks like he belongs at Rosenborg on the sidelines. And it's been a long time since I've seen a manager who's really looked like he belongs there. He's got the fans excited. Like it's really, Rosenborg are a good watch. Like, you're going to get entertained when you watch them at the moment. And the pressing system, like, he seems to have really instilled this pressing into them. A bit like when Bielsa came into Leeds. I've just noticed a massive difference in the physicals. So they are hugely on the up. They've got nothing else to focus on now, apart from NM Cup, Norwegian Cup, and then Eliteserien. And the next match, Bodø Glimt away, 30th of August. So that's going to be an absolute cracker. That could be like a 7-goal thriller or something. But I've been really impressed with Rosenborg. Chiaka's been crucial for them, and the manager switch has worked.
Really interesting their analysis, Steve. And also something listeners might be interested in from a data point of view. They are the #1 team in Eliteserien for 1v1 dribbles, according to our partners, Wyss Huddle, with 389 dribbles this season. I don't know if that's successful or not, but according to Wyss, so yeah, 2-1 winners against the champions just gone. Steve, could this be a revival? I mean, could we fans like Storm and Sotta, could we be starting to see something that we've not seen for so long? A Rosenborg title contender? Is that? I feel like, it's like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. Glimt and Rosenborg. Could we see this battle that everybody? It's AJ Tyson Fury. Could we see it at some point, or is it too early to get carried away with this revival? What's the next step for them? If you get what I mean, from here on forward, is it time to get excited, or should we rein in our horses a bit?
I definitely get excited. You've got to be excited now if you're a Rosenborg fan. I think they're 10 points off third, but I think they could get third. I really do think they've got a chance to get in third. Certainly top 5 and qualify for Europe. Top 4 and qualify for Europe. But they've got to keep their players. I suppose they've got to keep the manager. I mean, the thing is now, Bodø Glimt could be like, at the end of the season, try and snap their best players off them. That's the state of affairs we are financially now. Like, it's quite amusing in that way, isn't it? But Rosenborg are still a big club. Like, they're well supported. They've got a big stadium, and in many ways, it is. For years, I never hated them, but it got a bit boring when they won the titles. But in many ways, it's good to see them sort of coming back. A strong and healthy Rosenborg, I do believe, would be good for the league. And this is definitely maybe the start of something to come. I think they're always a club that will have a bit of pulling power. Just will, with the name. So, this could be a really good finish into the season for them now. Try and get in that top 3 or 4. Consolidate over the winter. Don't lose anyone big. And if you do lose someone big, make sure you get good money for them and reinvest, sort of thing. That's what they've got to do now. But I think they're on the right track. First time in a while I've said that, really. Like, proper right track.
Yeah, and even that win against Viking, that had a proper feel to it. If you look at the highlights, a really sort of topsy-turvy battle, 94th minute winner from Amin Chiakasti, 20 years old, Algerian. He looks like someone who could be an interesting profile. He's on loan from Denmark, but he's got 9 goals in 17 games and is sort of like leading the line there. So there's always a few siders in the team. Conrad's insider up front, Conrad's insider at the back. Just need a Conrad's insider in the middle, I guess. But yeah, no, like you say, it's always exciting when sort of a big team re-emerges from the doldrums again. Steve.
This Chiaka, by the way, he's served me really well in fantasy. He's one of those guys, you know what I'm like. When I get on someone, I get on someone big. I captained him at the weekend. This guy's moved me up from like 11,000 overall to 4,000 overall in just a few weeks. Chiaka. I knew immediately after like one performance, I'm getting this guy. And he's one of those that, yeah, I really like what I'm seeing from him. And the new manager's just helped so much. And Sider's done well as well, by the way. Always kind of rated him, haven't I? Emil Conrad's Cider.
Really? I do. I feel like I remember an episode where he slammed him once.
Yeah, but he's one of those players. He's like Marmite. Like, one week you love him, one week you think, he frustrates you.
I've got fond memories of a season where you absolutely destroyed him. I'm pretty sure, but I
have definitely praised him as well. He's one of those where we have a love-hate relationship, but he's been good recently. One-on-one drills, that doesn't surprise me. He's probably half of those. Genuinely, he must be up there on the one-on-one dribbles individually.
No, fantastic stuff. And before we wrap up part 1, is there any team let's look at the bottom. I know you did sort of think Start and Allison would struggle. My boys, Chris just said that looks like it's kind of going to form at the bottom. Is there any team, Steve, that surprised you in this mid-pack or Mulder? Anyone you want to talk about before we wrap up? And then also, I'd like to get your brand prediction for the Europa game, for the European game as well, please.
Yeah. No one's really surprised me too much. I mean, I missed the game. I was out, but there was a crazy one on early Sunday. Arlesund 5, Vålerenga 5. Arlesund blowing a 5-2 lead, and Vålerenga coming back there. And the problem with the teams down at the bottom, they're conceding too many goals. It's as simple as that. Brann are interesting. They got Eirik Horneland back at Brann, another manager. I rate him. And if Brann don't qualify for the Conference League, they could be another team worth looking out for, because Horneland has a very good record there. Brann Park, that's a tight one. It's where I need my coin. I think it's a coin flip. I'm not sure about Greek football right now. I mean, it's not. The teams have not been impressing me. So I think Brann have actually got a chance in that tie, but Brann haven't impressed me either in Europe anyway. They should have got knocked out by Apollon, who are Cypriot sides. So I'm going to go with Park just. But it wouldn't shock me if Brann got through. Brann do have some European experience, at least.
Yep, had a run last year, played Bologna, I believe, and maybe they can use some of that now, so like you said, to nudge themselves into that all-important European, what's the word? I don't even know how to describe it. Smorgasbord, or I don't know, big sort of meat platter of games, the group stage, whatever you want to call it.
The league phase is officially known as, isn't it?
Monstrosity. The 50 team it is monstrosity. That is European football these days. Final question, Steve, part one. I know I have one more. Just on transfers, I'm going to name you some names. Smaljevic, Kasper Walksho, Felix Horn-Meyer, Jens Hjertod Dahl, Sidi Kinte, Gudal, Philip Thorvaldsen. A lot of money involved in those deals. That's 7 transfers. 3 of them are from Tromsø alone. Which one is, in your opinion, the best value for money? And which one is the player that you think will most kick on from here and sort of you expect to see maybe go from strength to strength? Let's just wrap up these big major transfers that have gone through.
Probably best value for actual money is Felix Horn-Meyer, West Brom. 3 million from Brann. Kinte to Al Ahly, I think he's the one that could go furthest. Bit of a shame to see him go to the Middle East, actually. I mean,
what are just before you go on that, but West Brom fans might be listening. What are you getting from that value for money? What are they getting? What have they signed?
They're going to be getting sort of like an all-round midfielder, really, who can do a lot of different things. I mean, I think his market value was around 5 million. I was a bit surprised that they got him for that cheap, really. I mean, I think he's already started a game for them in the Championship. Did he start the first game for them?
He started the first game, played 68 minutes, alongside his pal Hegebo, who scored a winner.
I think I call him box to box. Like, you're going to get the occasional goal out of him. You're going to get some assists out of him. You're going to get plenty of sort of versatility that way. You're going to get a physical guy who will run for you. So he's a bit like a Swiss Army knife. He does a lot of different things. And I think Championship level is a good level for him to come into first and develop his game in the Championship. Like, for example, Jens Hjertod Dahl coming into Hull. And Hull have also signed Elliot Stroud from Mjällby. Those 2 players, they're not ready for the Premier League yet. You know what I mean? It's just too tough of an entrance. So, and that sort of thing can actually stifle your development because of bad experiences and getting blown out. So, I mean, Jens Hjertod Dahl, I like the player. I think he could go a long way in the game, but that's a tough start for him, straight in the deep end in the Premier League. I still think that Kinte could be the one with the biggest ceiling out of these guys that have left, though. 6.5 million to Al Ahly. I mean, what's going to happen to his game in the Middle East?
You could argue. I mean, is it Saudi Arabia or differently?
It's Saudi Arabia, isn't it, Al Ahly?
I mean, you could argue that's on a par with MLS.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably, if he's any good, I suppose he then moves to the next move is a big Euro team, in it for like 10 million or I don't know. But I think he's quality, Kinte. Real quality.
Yeah, he was linked with Chelsea, wasn't he, at one point?
Yeah, he's the one to watch long term. Thorvaldsen, 5.5 million to Twente. That's that's a new move this week. I've always rated him. I think he's got something about him, and that's a good landing spot. Is the Dutch league, isn't it, for attackers who, when the defending over there is terrible. So yeah, I think that's a good. I think it's really important what clubs you move to. I mean, I've seen Sverre Nipan went to Man City. He's already on loan in Belgium. Is it Lommel or somewhere like that? Do you know what I mean? It's not.
I think that's their feeder club.
That's not always going. Yeah, just think not always going to the bigger club is the best thing initially.
Well, Nipan, I mean, just on that, I saw him play against Middlesbrough under 21s for City under 21s, and I was just like, what is he doing here?
Exactly.
Like, I know it's not a waste because obviously, hopefully, his career progresses, but I mean, Sverre Nipan's got no business playing against Middlesbrough under 21s. I was like, what is the point of like? Joke. I know I think it was between loans, or maybe it was sort of maybe he's back from an injury or something like that. But you know, imagine you're Nipan and you've gone from ripping it up at your home club to 21s football, sort of like on the surface when no one's watching it.
I know.
No, it's interesting.
Gudal to Sparta Prague. I think he already scored for Sparta Prague, by the way. Big towering centre back. That might be a decent sort of stepping stone club for Gudal. Really, in sort of a no nonsense centre back. Gudal. I could see him going decent. I mean, big loss for Tromsø. Lose 3 massive players two of them really big this season. In one window is just, you can't replace that, can you, this quickly? So, but they got plenty of money for them, nearly 25 million overall.
Absolutely, and like you say, big loss, but they do have a massive chunk of money to go out maybe into the market and redevelop, and that is maybe the modus operandi. And speaking of which, we will now wrap up part 1. When we come back for part 2, we'll be talking about another club who has made a ton of money and has the same sort of dilemma about whether they should even make a bit more money. It's the league leaders of Sweden, who you can find out all about in part 2 after this short break.
Welcome back to the Nordic Football Podcast. This is part 2. We're going to look into Allsvenskan teams in action now. And Sirius, that's the place to start. Not least because you wrote an excellent Wyss Scout blog piece on them, Jonathan. But they have been brilliant in this league so far. 13 wins out of 17, 3 draws and just 1 defeat. Although that 1 defeat has just come recently at the weekend in shocking fashion. They lead the way by 9 points, though, to Hammarby. And then Häcken are 14 points, behind them in 3rd place. It's been a brilliant season for Sirius on the field. Now you're going to talk to me about what's been happening off the field, which might derail them, and whether this defeat from 3-0 up to lose 4-3 against Mjällby could be a mental issue.
Yes, Steve, welcome back to listeners. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that the first place to start obviously is the Wyss Scout blog. I did write that. You can view it on Wyss Scout's X account or on their page on the Wyss Scout blog. So it's talking about them being the breakaway leaders. This is a chance for them to win the first title in their history, Steve. So as you said, a bit of a wobble, but no one can underestimate what an incredible campaign they're having so far. Historic, potentially. And really, that was what I talked about in my blog about Sirius on Wyss Scout, our regular contribution. So check it out if you get a chance. So I think it says 8-minute read roughly, but I don't think it might. Well, I think you can read it a bit quicker than that if you're quick. But a bit of a deep dive. Really, the underlying core themes, really, Steve, is just their ability to buy and sell. And I think we talked about Tromsø just before the break. That the incomings they've got. It's the case with Sirius that they've really built an organic squad. Really, they've just rotated, developed players and sold, and then brought in new players. And the scouting department is the area that has really sort of propelled the engine room to become a team now that looks like they're odds-on favourites now to win Allsvenskan. And I mean, if they were to bottle it now, I know you just talked about that shock defeat. Well, not a shock defeat because it's the champions, reigning champions, but it's probably maybe an unexpected defeat. If they were to bottle it now, it would be considered probably a bit of a letdown, even at this early stage. I don't know if you wanted to just do similar to what we did in part one, because obviously it has been a while since we've talked about Allsvenskan. I don't know if you want to recap the table just before we carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I will do. Yeah, I'll do it now because Sirius on 42 points. 13 wins, 3 draws, 1 defeat. Hammarby in second on 33 points, 10 wins out of 17. Häcken now in third place with IKOR, 28 points for those. It's a really congested sort of part of the table, a bit like it is in Eliteserien, because we've got Elfsborg on 27 points. Djurgården and Malmo in 6th and 7th. What is going on there? They should be higher, surely. Down at the bottom of the table, Halmstad, one of the worst teams I've ever seen in Allsvenskan, to be honest, Jonathan. 7 points for them on the board. They are absolutely terrible. Ågre on 13 points and Degerfors on 16, but they've won their last 2. Degerfors, they always look dead and buried, don't they, Degerfors? And then come back from the dead at various points. 16 points for them. Kalmar on 18, and then IFK Göteborg on 19. Mjällby, the defending champions, on 20. If they'd not beaten Sirius, Mjällby would have only been 1 point above relegation. But they do have a game in hand. So that's the state of affairs in the table. And it's been all about Sirius, really. They've dominated especially the offensive metrics. The scoring goals for fun. And, looked unstoppable. But in those last 2 games, 2-0 up against Bromma blew that. 3-0 up against Mjällby, blew that. Defense is obviously an issue there. I know they've signed players. I mean, Limata's come in, hasn't he, and scored 2 goals. But I mean, from a serious perspective, we've got to talk about the sale of Robbie Ure. How much of a big loss that is. And we had someone, Neil D, said, selling Robbie Ure, how does this affect their title chances?
Yeah, it's a great question. The deal's done now, so good thing I got the Wisecat blog in just before he was sold, because he was a key part of the article, really, just talking about how incredible he's been and what an example he is in terms of their scouting system as well in general. Steve, he is someone who was scoring goals for fun. He hit 26 league goals prior to leaving. I think he scored a few more actually before he left. Ultimately, I think he ended up with 28. He's a 22-year-old forward. He's actually become their leading scorer of all time in Allsvenskan, Robbie Ure, in just 1 and a bit seasons. So that tells you how prolific he was in a short period of time. He's now got a move, and obviously there was a lot of rumours that he would sort of go maybe France, Italy, Turkey. I think he was linked with. I think Sevilla is a fantastic move. I mean, what a city, what a place to play your football. I went to the stadium last year, and I really enjoyed it. Well, visited the stadium and see a game. I went to watch Betis instead, but I think you've got to be proud of the move he's made there. And from the point of view of sort of the scouting and how they've developed, I mean, if you look at Robbie Ure, he's a great example of the kind of profile Sirius are looking at. He was at Rangers B, Steve. Came through Rangers youth system, Scottish player. He then went to Anderlecht Futures, which is kind of like Anderlecht's youth team or B team, maybe the kind of like under 21 type team. And Sirius paid 750,000 euros to take him from basically Anderlecht B team. So a great bit of scouting, Steve. They've then now sold him for nearly 10 times the amount within sort of 17, 18 months. Signed him in March 2025, and they've flipped him now August 2026 for 6.5 million euros. So just shows you sort of like the strategy of Sirius and why they're doing so well. And it's working on the pitch because they've really developed nicely. They've got a nice little game model. Their sporting director, Jonathan Edstrom, has commented that the plan is buy and sell, and they'll continue to do that. It sounds like, from the sounds of things, by the way he's talked. They're looking for the next players, and they've already sort of like signed someone else, looking like maybe can come in and maybe not be a like-for-like replacement for you, but kind of complement that forward line. No sooner had they kind of, I think, accepted a bid roughly around the same period of time Steve, that they also brought in Otso Limata from Famalicão in Portugal. So, they're always looking to develop, and they've also signed a lad called Jesper Uniken from PSV under 21s for about 600,000 euros, who I don't know how he'll get on. Maybe one to keep an eye out for in the future. But Limata, obviously, they paid a fee to bring him in. He was already part of Halmstad, Steve, on loan. But yeah, he's gone to Sirius now. So that's the kind of model that they look at, and I'm sure there'll be others that they'll sell at some point. But yeah, I mean, Isaac Björkebo is absolutely ripping up the league. He's one who everybody's talking about. He's been just unbelievable this season, and he's sort of a tricky winger. He's not the biggest. He's quite diminutive, but he's very, very good. Sort of maybe coming inside, good dribbler on some of these smaller Allsvenskan pitches. So yeah, in terms of Neely D's question, I think hopefully I've answered that. How will they do without him? I think it will be a bit more of a struggle. I think it does reduce their chances slightly, but they've got such a big lead. But I think it's a psychological thing, Steve. I think I'd be more worried now if they sold someone like Björkebo. Mohamed Souma, I think at the back, is also someone to keep an eye out for. They bought him again from Belgian B team and paid €1 million for him as well at the start of the season. He's looked very good. Gambian towering centre back from Young Ghent. So that's the strategy. Obviously, last season they had Leo Walter, who they sold to Swansea. You can kind of see what they're going for: buy and sell. I think they should still win the league, but there's another team just behind them, Steve, who's starting to build up a bit of a head of steam.
Yeah, I mean, when you just blown a 3-0 lead and lost 4-3, the last thing you want is your nearest rivals to rock up the next day and smash someone, and that is Hammarby. Now, Hammarby always seem to be this bridesmaid, don't they? I mean, in Europe, I feel like one day they're going to make it through to one of these group stages, whether it's Conference League or Europa or whatever, but they never seem to get there. Same with the league. They never seem to win it. Same with the cups. They don't seem to win enough. But they're a good side, aren't they? The second place, the stats, they beat Kalmar 4-0, and the stats are incredible. It was like 26 shots to 4, 2.2 XG to 0.17, 9 corners to 4, and Kalmar haven't been that bad this year. But they've been totally schooled by what is now their former manager. Because the biggest thing about Hammarby, and we've not actually talked about it yet on an episode, is they have changed their manager mid-season. Big high-profile change around, and they are the only team. No one else can win this league now, can they? The others they're just too far adrift. But Hammarby could do it, and they're showing some form.
Yeah, they are indeed, Steve. There's been a couple of managerial changes actually, which I'll briefly touch on this season so far that listeners probably already know about, but may have missed. 4 changes, not 3 changes in the caretaker, but Galta Helstrup is in at Malmo now. Obviously, Miguel Angel Ramirez had a bit of a torrid time and was not there for too long, to be honest. I think about 100 and something days. Halmstad replaced their manager as well quite early in the season in May. Stuart Baxter is there. He's a bit of a veteran. But you're right, Steve. In June, on the eve of the World Cup, when everyone was sort of enjoying themselves, getting ready for the festival, an announcement came from Hammarby that they had parted ways with Kalle Karlsson, former pod guest Kalle Karlsson, who sort of developed such a high-standing reputation from his time at Västerås, getting them promoted on 2 occasions even. He got the Hammarby job, but it just didn't really work out. I think there was personality clashes behind the scenes, and they wobbled a little bit, Steve, and they took advantage of the fact that Henrik Rydström had also been sacked from his job in America. He obviously moved out to MLS. Didn't really work out there. I know you keep an eye. I mean, you used to keep a big eye on MLS. I don't know if you still do, but he didn't. He got short shrift out there. Big reputation. Someone I also wrote a Wisecat blog about not too long ago, about a year ago, I think. Yeah, but he's back now at Hammarby, and it looks like a bit like Rosenborg, maybe not the size of the club, but just in terms of what they're doing on the pitch, they are purring a little bit at this moment in time. They've had some very nice results. Steve, they're up to second now. like you said, they're 5 points ahead of Hacken in third. Who I think Hacken, by the way, have had a good season. They've surprised me. Was not expecting Hacken to be as good as they are. They do have a good manager, in fairness. But yeah, Hammarby, although they haven't really progressed in Europe, had a couple of tough results against Rakov Czestochowo. Hopefully, I've pronounced that correctly. Polish side. Back-to-back spanking, 7 goals without conceding. Hammarby 3, Hacken 0, and Kalmar 0, Hammarby 4. Tough run of form against Poikana as well. Against Anderlecht in Europe. But yeah, it looks like they are set to maybe look to take advantage, let's say, if Sirius do wobble a little bit more. I don't know if they can have enough to catch them. But we've still got 13 games left. A couple more wobbles without Robbie Ure, and you just never know.
They've got the best squad, haven't they, Hammarby? If we're being honest. They've got the best squad in this league. I said it at the start of the season. And it could be incredibly 2 years in a row where they have they had a very good season last year. Just were beaten by an incredible Mjällby. We could get the same again. Like Sirius could end up with a stupid amount of points and Hammarby finish second and do really well. But I quite like that 4-0 from them. It was a message, I think, from Rydstrom. Put the hammer down. Put a bit of pressure on Sirius. See what they're made of here, Sirius. Sirius, I think they've got Malmo next. And the two teams meet each other quite a long time to go, actually. It's in October, round 26, with 5 games left. Hammarby Sirius. Let's see what's on the line when that happens. But again, Hammarby, one of their biggest issues is playing these Stockholm derbies. They've got AIK soon. They've got Djurgården as well. Let's see how it goes. But they have been impressing on the field, that is for sure. So it's been a lot of...
One thing I think that is very, you said they've got the best squad. I mean, they haven't been shy to reinforce it, by the way. I mean, they spent 3.3 million euros bringing Amin Boudry back from America as well, who I think he only played 7 games in the end from that big money move to, I think it was LAFC. And he's a very highly rated player. And he's still young, only 21. And that's a lot of money for Allsvenskan. I know Hammarby do make a lot of money because they're quite good in the market and selling players. And they've had a lot of high-profile sales. One to watch, by the way, for Premier League fans, Bazumana Toure at Newcastle. He's wound up in the Premier League now, obviously, and I remember he went for big money from Hammarby a few seasons ago. I really, really liked him, and I always thought he's a Crystal Palace player. I always thought he will end up at Crystal Palace, and maybe he will in the future, but Toure is one that they sold for big money, of course, and that's allowed them to reinvest in Boudry, who I think, by the way, is a great addition to that forward line. So, yeah, certainly the Carlson days in terms of, I don't know exactly what happened behind the scenes, but maybe those disagreements have been put to one side and they've got renewed focus. I mean, Henrik Rydstrom is quite not a divisive manager, but he's a strong-minded manager. He's got his own opinions. So I don't think it's the last we'll see of maybe controversy off the field, maybe in terms of maybe 1 or 2 fallouts, but certainly it looks at the moment like he's galvanized everyone, Steve, and those are the 2 teams that, realistically speaking, the title's going to come from one of them, but it's looking like it will be equal Sirius for the first time ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Carlson, again, it's a case of, look, the metric darlings, they dominated matches, but weren't getting enough points. And it seems to be a trend now for Kalle Carlson, converting those performances into actual points. But I suppose, Henrik Rydstrom's come in. I've been quite impressed that the last 2 wins have been convincing, Häcken and Kalmar. They've done that in the middle of this European run. But, are Hammarby the best team in Allsvenskan? They might well be now. But the concern then for Allsvenskan is that team has just got beaten by a Polish side called Rakov, who they're nothing special. That's the level maybe Allsvenskan's at now, that perhaps the best team is getting beaten by the 3rd or 4th best in Poland. But that's a matter for another day, isn't it? They can fully focus on the Allsvenskan title now. They'd love to win it. And I think if the next few weeks, if Sirius do start to slip up, then I could see, the past experience of Rydstrom coming through, proven winner and all that. It's Sirius now. I've got to settle that ship. Make sure that they stay, 6 to 9 points clear and stay in control of proceedings. They've got Häcken next of Sirius. That's got like 10 goals written all over it, that match, hasn't it? And then they've got Malmo at home. And Malmo, wow, I've watched a bit of them under Gauda Helstrup, and they're too inconsistent. I just think one week they look good and one week they don't.
One thing you forget, Steve, is Hammarby are also known for bottling. So it's not a case of Hammarby going to go and win 8-9 games in a row. I think that would be very optimistic for a team that's kind of like known as a wobbly team, not a team that's known for getting the job done. But you just never know in this league. I mean, Malmo with Helstrup, I mean, you what's your assessment of him from Mulder, his Mulder days? Because he's come in and Malmo have kind of looked to sort of rejuvenate the squad, to be honest. They've made quite a few sales. They even let Stefano Vecchia just leave the squad. Like they sold Taha Ali to Greece. They've really, I think there's been an acknowledgement at Malmo that they have not got things right in terms of recruitment. And there's been a bit of a cultural and sporting reset really at the club at the moment. Helstrup is the man who's sort of been charged with leading that revival and getting them back to where they are. I mean, they're not having the best of seasons in general, obviously partly because of that managerial early change. They've lost 7 games out of 17, and they're in 7th place, which isn't great. But what's your perspective on Helstrup, someone that you know well from Norway?
Did well at Tromsø, and then he moved to Bodø Glimt, the arch rivals, to be the assistant under Kjetil Knutsen. I mean, I've watched them. They're very inconsistent. They're playing quite narrow. They're not getting that many. You know me, I love my corners and betting these days, and they're a corner killer team. I think there's too much sort of passive passing. Do you know what I mean? Like not threatening passing. They're trying to be too technical, but at least he's trying to have an identity with them. I mean, they lost to Degerfors at home. You can't lose to Degerfors at home. It seems they've been better away from home recently for whatever reason. The home, is it the pressure from the fans?
What was he like at Molde?
Tromsø.
Sorry, Tromsø. Sorry.
Well, Tromsø are very much a system team, aren't they? A system club where they play the same formation and they bring in players for that formation, and it worked. He was 3 at the back there. He hasn't done 3 at the back yet at Malmo. So I think at the minute he's trying to decide ultimately, is the squad that good? It probably isn't that good, is it? It's decent, but it's got holes in it, and maybe that's the issue. They're up and down right now. I thought they'd got something going with Botheim, but then he seems to be inconsistent as well. If they sign well before the end of the window, then I'd make them probably favourites for 3rd. Don't know. The 3rd place is bang up for grabs, I think. Could be any one of like 5 teams. Djurgården look really good, and then they've just lost their last 2 games. Don't make sense. This league doesn't make sense sometimes, Jonathan. Does it? It's just really random.
Really random? Yeah, possibly. I mean, it's not the consistency, that we talked about in Big Six Question. He said, and I know you're going to list. There's a few other Allsvenskan questions that we got, Steve. Maybe you want to touch on them.
Yeah.
Stadium questions as well, but might come back to that another day. That was a fantastic question, but yeah, I mean, it's not as consistent. So from that point of view, I do like the fact that I think fans probably do like it. I mean, every country in every league, Steve, wants an unpredictable league. I think that's one thing I always find quite funny about football. You get a league that's unpredictable, and people complain, saying there's no dominant force, if you get what I mean. And then you get a league that teams dominate, and it's like, it's too much dominance. They're too dominant. So people do probably maybe change their minds on what they want, really. So do you want a competitive league, maybe where the average strength isn't the best? I guess the dream is a very high quality league, but with rotating winners. But that's always going to be quite a challenge, I suppose. I think in Allsvenskan it's a bit less quality, but obviously that allows a chance for rotating winners. But it's like you said earlier in the show, there's so many big clubs that are just sort of underperforming. We haven't spoken about it yet, but IFK Göteborg have also, had managerial changes. In since the case of Malmo, they've also lost Hugo Bolin, which I think is a big blow. He's gone out to Germany, but he's got a deserved move. But yeah, I think I mean it is in answer to your question, yes, it is an unpredictable.
There's a few questions that we've had. I just want to go back to one here. Rio D asked, Eliteserien is better than Allsvenskan. Why do Swedish clubs sell players for bigger transfer fees every year? Now, in general, the Norwegian clubs have been getting more money, but I forgot about one mammoth transfer, of course, and that was Zadok Johanna, 28 million, wasn't it, to Brighton? I mean, the reason for that is he could be generational. Rio D. So Rio D, he does make a good point about that transfer, but in general, I think Eliteserien as a whole has been selling for higher transfer fees. Luis de la Meda asked three things. Why is Malmo having such an inconsistent season again? Perhaps we've answered that. A deeper dive on Västerås' season. Strengths, weaknesses, and possible reasons for a decent season so far. And things aren't going well for Mjällby in the league. Any thoughts? I want to start with Mjällby, actually, because I've got a question for you. They've lost Elliot Stroud to Hull City, 2.5 million. What are Hull going to get for their money there for Elliot Stroud? Of course, he was in Sweden's World Cup squad. I don't think he's ready for the Premier League, personally. But you might think differently. What are Hull going to get with Elliot Stroud? And how big of a loss is it for Mjällby?
Yeah, it's a big loss, but it's been coming. I mean, this time last year, Steve, it was a bit like the Sirius with Björkebo and Ure. It was like, is Elliot Stroud going to stay to win the league, or is he going to be sold? So the fact a year later they've won the league and he's still sticking around, I think that shows his loyalty. But he was on an expiring contract, so they did need to cash in this summer. But it also shows that he hasn't got his move. Basically, he's now got it, and it's a big Premier League move. I think his family's English. Stroud is quite an English name, and I believe his family are Manchester United fans, so he's going to potentially play against them this weekend in the Premier League. They're getting a very robust player, good physical profile, can play a number of positions. I think you could play him on the right, to be honest, as well, on the wing. You can play him as a left winger. You can play him as a left wing back. I think you can play him as a left back. So from that point of view, he was a bit of an all-round. He became like an all-round merchant, really. It's almost, I don't know why I'm thinking of cricket, but it's almost like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a sport where it's like a ringer type thing role. He almost became just good at everything, really. Elliot Stroud probably will go down in history as one of the best ever players of Mjällby when you look at his success that they achieved with him and his background and things like that, coming from lower divisions and being sold to the Premier League. But yeah, I think, is he Premier League quality? It's a big jump, Allsvenskan direct to the Premier League. Zadok Johanna, you just mentioned there. I've seen he has featured in Brighton's pre-season games. He could feature in the Conference League game in that Conference League game, and I'd love to see that. Funnily enough, actually, Steve, Zadok Johanna was in Stockholm this weekend, in the stands to watch the Stockholm derby as Core beat Diff. He went back to his former club. He was actually with the ultras in the ultras section. There was a video on Instagram that came out, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if Brighton are aware that their £28 million signing is in there with the ultras dancing and stuff. You never know, like someone could, I don't know, he could dance too much and get an injury or something, but I don't know about the insurance policies, what he's allowed and not allowed to do. But yeah, he was enjoying himself. He even went into the dressing room at full time and was dancing with the players, obviously. So I think it'll be an adjustment, but I think, let's face it, Hull are going to be up against it, right? They're not expected to kind of like challenge in the Premier League, are they? So I think he's Championship level. So if they were to go down, I think he could easily adapt there. And I think he's good enough to maybe feature, but probably not going to be like a star Premier League player. He might get some minutes. I think it's the adaptation period that is difficult, isn't it, Steve? It's going directly from one to the other. How long will it take him to adapt and settle because of the just increased intensity? But maybe the string on his bow, Steve, he did feature during the World Cup, didn't he, for Sweden? He got a few minutes in different games. Came on, I think it was against Netherlands, and he got one other appearance as well, maybe one or two. So perhaps the World Cup experience, that intensity of the training and the heat and everything there might help him as well from Mjällby. And obviously they've played European games. In terms of the question about, I think it was what's the why they're so inconsistent?
Yeah, Mjällby, yeah.
Yeah, why aren't things going well for them? I think it's just a case of change of manager. Obviously, a legendary manager left. He's gone upstairs. Also, we knew about his health problems. We can listen to that episode, Anders Torstensen winning the title. Don't forget to go back if you've not heard that before. The legendary manager, and obviously that transition for Axum, it takes time, and it's his first managerial role, and it's a historic season. It's a once in a generation season for Mjällby. They're not a massive club, and that's what I was just saying about Glimt earlier, isn't it? In part one, Steve, like Glimt have become a powerhouse from many years of development. Sirius could actually, the model they're going down, Sirius could sort of follow that blueprint potentially. I think Glimt was similar in the way they developed. They sold a lot of players in the early days and had that game model and just continued to sell and grow. But Mjällby aren't really like that. They lost a lot of players. They also sold Thorell to Basel in Switzerland, and I feel as if the challenge of Europe and Allsvenskan is a difficult one. And they also lost a lot of players, Steve, as well. They lost a lot of key players. Abdoulaye Mane has also been sold. They've lost a lot of players. So at the end of the day, I just think it's a lot of transition to manage and still kind of retain titles. So I think it's a little bit of Europe, a little bit of sales, a little bit of the fact that it's just it was a Black Swan season, if you know what I mean, once in a generation. That contributes to it. In the case of Västerås, I think they're well coached, Steve, and they're an interesting team. They've had a good season so far. Haven't really suffered too much from the loss of Kalle Karlsson with the replacements. But a challenge will come in the fact that they've also lost a key striker, a bit like Robbie Ure. Mikael Ladefoged has left the club. Massive striker. I think he's 6'6", maybe even slightly taller. And he recently kind of threw a strop and demanded to be sold because of the amount of interest. And he did get his move, Steve, and he's recently moved to Lincoln City in England. So he's got his move to the Championship. I think it was about 3 million euros, which is a big money sale for Västerås as well, by the way. So another one there that kind of shows you the income that's coming into the league. I think there's been in this summer about 77 million euros come in and 10 million in departures. 10 million in arrivals. So the transfer balance is really pumping. I just wish they could use some of that money, Steve, to get a better TV deal because of the lack of ability to watch these games is really frustrating me. I just want a Netflix for Scandinavia. That would be great if they can bring it in. But yeah, Västerås, in terms of what they've done, they've obviously got some very good players as well. So I think that's something to be thought about from that point of view. They've done well in that sense. The likes of Tromsø, I think Bagerson's had quite a good season. There's a few others that they've got. But yeah, in general, Alexander Rubin, the replacement, he's a 37-year-old coach, and he's in his first managerial role, but he's done quite well so far. So I think that's the main reason for that. And then to answer Luis de Almeida's final question in terms of Malmo, yeah, I think you've kind of touched on it there as well, Steve, in terms of the managerial change. And it's just a case of the style of play as well. And I think, like I said, that they are in a transition period. They are regenerating that squad. I said it last season, in that season, Steve, where they really struggled with Rydström. I said that the squad was just too big. I felt it was like they didn't at times have an identity because there was so many players. And I think they're trying to address that now and maybe chop some of the dead wood. Not dead wood, but, just chop some of the weeds, let some of the new people come in and grow. And, they've got a few players coming through, like Oscar Strand and others that are looking good from the fact that they've let others go. Haksabanovic has sort of blossomed a bit, but when you looked at it, and remember last season, Steve, I remember there was a period of time where it was like that attacking midfield role. You had Oliver Berg, you had Haksabanovic, and you had Vecchia. And it was like, and you've got Alexander Christensen. There's so many players, Bolin as well. So I think that is part of the fact that they've had to regenerate the squad. And that's probably also led to a bit of inconsistency along with the manager.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the metrics now for Allsvenskan, and Hammarby is so much better in XG and XGA. But going back to Västerås, the last time they were in the league, of course, they were one of the biggest underachieving sides I've ever known in any league, in any division, anywhere, any year. But this season, they have the third worst expected goals, pretty much the joint fourth worst expected goals against, and they're comfortably mid-table. So metrics mean nothing, do they? It's just ironic. I find that ironic. As this time they're in the league, they're probably overachieving a little bit, whereas last time it was a massive underachievement for Västerås. And that's a great move for Fadugba. isn't it, into the Championship at Lincoln, and maybe he'll go well there. Maybe he's got the physique for the Championship at least, hasn't he? So good luck to him at Lincoln City for the Imps. It could be a tough year for them, though, in the Championship. By the way, Elliot Strauss, let's talk betting here for a minute. 5-1 to score or assist against Manchester United. Week 1 of the Premier League. 10-1 to score any time. Would that interest you? Would you rather bet on that or Joshua Zirkzee at even money to score or assist?
Well, I don't think Zirkzee will play, will he?
I'm just saying.
I mean, it'll be a fairy tale. Stroud, I'm pretty sure from reading, Stroud's dad is a big Man United fan. Really? So he moved out there and to Sweden. And obviously Elliot is now a Swedish international. But yeah, I mean, that would be a fairy tale story for him for sure. And he'll be motivated. I mean, I wonder which United he might be asking for Rashford's shirt maybe after the game. Who knows? But yeah, it's a great. I mean, that's what we love about football, isn't it? At the end of the day,
it certainly is.
Creates these fairy tales.
It certainly is. I think that pretty much does this episode. Unless you've got something to add, anything you wanted to add at all, Jonathan? I don't think I've missed a question out.
Yeah, well, I will just touch on ES Phil's question. ESN Phil at ESN Phil. He wanted to ask about Eliteserien. So, Steve, you're going to be on the cosh for that one. ESN at ESN Phil, please do ask it again, maybe next week. We'll get Steve to answer. But which team is most improved by incomings and which is most damaged by exits? I'm going to say Hammarby. I think is most improved by incomings. I think Budry and there's also a centre back, Waylon Reneker, that I watched play for Norwich under-21s against Everton under-21s 2 years ago in my first week in Liverpool when I went to do my masters. And he's a South African defender, and I really liked him. And I saw him pop up the other week. He scored a couple of goals for Hammarby, and I was like, "What? How has he ended up at Hammarby?" And it turns out he went to Denmark from Norwich and then has been signed by Hammarby. I think that is probably a decent signing, to be fair. So from that point of view, I'm going to answer that. I think we're in a bit of a period of time, just on terms of transfers, Steve, just by the way. I think, I don't know if you've got a Eliteserien answer there or just a brief one, but I think we're in a bit of a period where there's a bit of a regeneration of players in this league now. There's a few coming through now, I think, that will be the next. I think the wheat has been chaffed. The players that are going to get sold have kind of been sold, maybe. A lot of them now, with Ladefoged and Robbie Ure and, a few others, Johanna, players like that. And I think the next crop's coming through now that will probably then start to get more interest as well. I mean, Silas Anderson is one, Lef Hacken and others. I think we're starting to see others coming through, like I said, Strostrand at Malmo. I think Hacken have got a few players that are looking very interesting. Or Core have got a few, Kevin Filling, Linus Karlstrand. I think there's a few coming through now that will get more attention. And I think that's something that I always enjoy about Allsvenskan. It's like, there's always players coming through somewhere. I saw that Elfsborg have just signed a left back from Fulham, Jonathan Asenga, which is a really interesting transfer that I'll be keeping an eye on from Fulham's and under-21s. So there's always players coming through. In terms of the team that may be most weakened, just to answer the question, I know you already asked about Eliteserien, so you might not even care, but I'm going to answer it anyway. I do think there's still room to go because I think before the window closes, I think clubs might lose a few more players. I could see Diff maybe losing one or two players maybe before the window ends, potentially. I do think Broma Poikina have been a little bit weakened. Sion Opon going to Toulouse. Timothy Anderson, who I always quite rated, going to Poland. Frederick Christensen as well has gone to Duisburg. I do think they've maybe slightly weakened. I don't know if it will massively hamper them, but I do think that is a bit of a weakening. You could argue Ilkay Göteborg have lost a few now. Brandt Lind, who I think it's just too early for him to leave. I'm sad that he left actually to Strasbourg so early because I think he's a big Ivkor fan, but he's got a massive move. Roxon Yeboah as well has gone to Osasuna just recently. I'm going to put my neck out on the block, Steve. I'm going to say I think the team maybe most weakened is going to end up being either Kalmar or Sirius. I just think Robbie Ure is a massive loss, and if they lose anyone else, that title could be in jeopardy. Maybe that sort of.
This could be like a Newcastle situation.
Yeah, I think if they were to lose Björkebo, apparently Björkebo turned down an offer. He said it wasn't right for him. But I think if he goes, they're really going to need to find.
They've got to get players in. And that's what
Well,
Mjällby did
no,
so
I think
well last
internally
year.
they've got some solutions, but they're good. Though they will have to then carry the team, and that's the pressure to come and through a title challenge. You know what I mean? That's the hard ask on anyone to come into a team, even if you're already in the squad, and sort of then carry a title. It's like losing a massive player in a title season. You know, it's like losing Declan Rice, and then you're asking someone else to come in and carry, or Rodri or something like that. But the other team I would say is I think Kalmar need to be careful just because they've lost Ronnie Jansen. It's looking like Charlie Rosenqvist is in talks with Atalanta. And there's also been rumours about Sego Jr. Maybe Arsenal might just be wanting to cash in on him. And I just think if they were to lose a couple more, they're having a good season, Kalmar, but it could risk them maybe dropping down a bit further and maybe towards relegation and getting sucked in again. So I think those are the ones that maybe I'd say could be looked at as maybe being weakened. I also think Malby have been obviously weakened with Thorell and Stroud leaving, but I think they can just about survive that and have an okay season.
In Eliteserien, definitely Tromsø the most affected negatively so far. Team most positively affected so far is actually, I would say, Koi from Oslo have made some good, solid additions, and they haven't lost anyone of significance, and they've had a good run recently thanks to it as well. Look much more solid, but there's still quite a long way to go in this transfer window, about 2 weeks of it. So I would, I'll probably give a better, fuller answer at the end of all that. Actually, final question before I go to you, Jonathan. Just how bad is this Halmstad side? These guys, one of the worst I've ever seen, and I've seen some bad teams. They are so poor. I'm not sure they even get. They might just get to double-digit points, but they're not. I'm not sure they're getting more than 15 points here.
They can't be as bad as who was it last season that was a similar situation? I think it was
Varnamo.
Yeah, I don't think they could be as bad as Varnamo, but it's a tough ask for Halmstad. They've lost a few players as well, but they do have one or two decent players. But I think it's been tough for them. But by the way, just before we wrap up on Degerfors, did you see Jukanovic's goal at last weekend?
I haven't seen it.
Halfway line, scored from the halfway line. If you
I need to watch that.
See that. He's always been a player that's got a goal in him for Degerfors, and I know you touched on it earlier. I didn't say anything on it, but yeah, if you can go back and watch Jukanovic's goal for Degerfors, an absolute worldie. Who knows if they can survive again? But yeah, Halmstad really struggling. Let's see. Like you said, 2 more weeks of the window. Clubs can bring players in. Clubs can get money and maybe wheel and deal. So watch this.
Halmstad be a candidate for the worst stadium as well, probably in Allsvenskan.
Now you're just bullying them.
No, yeah, I am. Who else?
What's your beef with them? You've got Halmstad blue shirts.
I don't have any beef with them, but what would be the worst? What would be a worse stadium? I mean, it's not just about capacity and stuff like that or size. What's the point of size if you don't use it? Atmosphere and all that sort of thing. You got a ambience, but I'm struggling to even think of that being a great place that way. But maybe that's for another week. Maybe let's.
Well, Varnamo, but there's been a few stadium redevelopments, and then also you're into a bit of a grey area, Steve, because you've got 3 clubs with the same stadium. So in Gothenburg.
Well, you could argue.
Who's do you say is the best?
Actually, Degerfors could be a candidate, couldn't it?
Malby could be a candidate, but that's a difficult one because are you talking about facilities or are you talking about character?
Well, it's just the whole thing, isn't it? Like,
but character plays a big part. You don't have to have.
Yeah, of course it does. So yeah. So it might not be but does it have that much character either?
Listen, character can go just as well as size. At the end of the day,
it can.
When we're talking stadiums, at least that is a big factor in my opinion. Because you get some terrible bowls, don't you? Like some horrible stadiums.
Yeah.
Soulless. Yeah. Whereas you get some ones that are right in the city centre. But one
like Bromma Poikina Stadium could be a bit soulless, perhaps. I know there's not much going. You've been there. It's not much, is it? Really?
No, it is time. I mean, the listener who made the comment said that he went to Hammarby and then BP. That they're like chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally a car park around the back of the corner flag at BP. It's like you can park your car next to the corner flag. I remember going to visit the Constable, and it's tiny, that stadium, compared to Hammarby. But do you know what's interesting, Steve? I've never been to any of the Stockholm Giant stadiums. Never been to AOK. Never been to DIF. I've never been to Hammarby. So if anyone's listening and wants to invite me, We're all ears.
Did you ever go to Rashunda?
No.
Before it got knocked down? Because that was an iconic stadium.
Before my time, I'm afraid.
Was it now? Yeah, actually, it would have been. I think it got knocked down about 2015. Off the top.
Yeah, never been to any of the big Stockholm stadiums. The only stadium I've been to is BP in Stockholm.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, put it in the comments. Let us know. What are your top 5 stadiums in Allsvenskan, bottom 5 as well? Do it for Eliteserien. Whatever country, actually. Give us your top 5, bottom 5 in each country. Intrigued to hear everyone's opinions. Anyway, that will do for today's episode, a long one as well. It was great to be back with you, Jonathan, and we will continue, hopefully reconvene soon in the midst of this mad period, both domestically and in Europe. And we've got a long period until the next international break, at least a month. So quite a lot of football to be played soon. But enjoyed that episode. Sorry, Halmstad fans. Maybe I was bullying them a bit too much there. I feel bad now. I feel bad. I'm kicking a dog while it's down. Poor Halmstad.
Well, we're both wearing Halmstad blue, so you never know. Like, they could recover. They've got the blue badge.
They've got a win next. You watch the win now. There's a history of this.
You can find us on, obviously, all the channels. You know where to find us. And obviously, Spotify comments especially, I'm enjoying them at the moment. So thank you very much for those who left those thoughtful comments. We'll be back soon. Let's see if we can be back for the second legs or after the second legs to review who is going to be in Europe. But for now, you've been Steve Wyss. I've been Jonathan Fadugba. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. See you next time.